Alright, I'm going to try a little different strategy today. See how it goes. This is Texas chert this time. Here's the other one. Someone said it's more like a chisel than an axe head. Yeah, but I think chisels were really fat back here. I was looking at some of these last night before I fell asleep. And they're all different sizes, so they don't have to be very large. Anyway, let's see. It does use up a lot of material. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to try a different strategy today. So what I'm going to do, I was thinking about it this morning, is I'm going to make a biface first and then shape it. Because I think starting out with a piece with squared off sides is not something that I can do right now. Because I don't have much practice with blade making. So essentially what you're doing when you got squared sides is you're making blades to shape it. They're not very long blades, but you know what I mean. You know, kind of like what I'm doing right there. But this is just trimming. I'm just trimming this right now. I'm going to make a biface first, and then I'm going to shape the biface. It'll probably end up being smaller than this one, but it'll be thicker. I gotta be careful to keep it thick. Yeah. Sounds funny, but you know how it goes. If you're used to thinning it down, you've got to work at trying to keep it thick. Injured the tip of my index finger last night, but I didn't feel it until I started to go to sleep. And so these hits are not going to be as hard as I normally do, because every time I do that, I can feel it on my fingertip. All right. Yeah, this is not going to be as big as the other one, but the main point of doing this is just to get the shape. Once I get the shape, then it doesn't really matter how big I start. I can start with a bigger one. As long as I get the procedure down to get the shape right. Now, like I said, I'm going to do a biface first. This is a really clunky piece, so it's difficult in the beginning to get the biface. Once I have the biface, then everything's going to be much smoother. Okay. Yeah, that finger is really bugging me. Let's see. Doesn't look like anything, right? But I think I drove a flake under my fingernail right there. I don't know what that is, but it's bugging me a lot. I might have to dig around in there later today. Okay. Put some antibiotic on it and some iodine and stuff. Anyway, just little things can get you. I gotta make sure I don't thin it down too much. And flakes like that, I can't do too many of those. Even though those are some of my favorite flakes to do on a regular biface, I can't do them on this one because I gotta keep it thick. And you'll see why in a little bit. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Gotta be another way to do this. Got my workout shoes on, brand new. But instead of working out, I'm gonna do Flintknapping. Yep. Okay. I still got that X head sitting in the back of my mind, and it does affect the flint napping as I'm going along. It doesn't affect it in a positive way. It's affecting it in a negative way. So what that means is your overall picture of what you're doing affects your flint knapping. Yep. You can't just be flint knapping one stage at a time. You've got to have that overall view of what you're going to be doing. And if it's right now, I just got to make sure I focus on the biface only and not think about the axe head or where it's going to be. I just need to make a thick, very regular biface first. And by regular, I don't mean generic, I mean very smooth, surfaced, regularized. And this stuff naps differently than the Georgia chert, so that's another adjustment I got to make. I think this Texas chert doesn't like these rough billet faces. It does not like it. The Georgia chert is fine with it, which is a strange thing. I don't know what causes that. Yeah, much better. All right. I'm still working on the biface. I'm going to switch over to indirect percussion to regularize it here in a minute. So yeah, this is not like my regular bifaces or my normal bifaces, because I have to maintain a constant thickness. I can't really deviate from a fat biface, so I can't do some of my normal flaking where I just go for broke and thin it down right away. I can't do that sort of thing. My most important thing I got to keep in mind is to make sure this area in the middle is not messed up, so I don't get this kind of effect on the finished piece. See, if I can do this flaking first in the middle to flatten it out, I don't have to do it later. Doing it later was a big pain last night. Oh yes. I haven't even reviewed the video. I started to, and I started to cringe, so I said, no, I'm not going to review it. I'll end up deleting it if I review it. Okay. Luckily, this material is being consistent. A lot of times this stuff gets very concretey in the middle. Luckily, it's high quality raw this time. Luckily. That's just luck. Yep. I think it's because it was this particular spodule, or it's not a nodule, it's not a spall, it's just a big old chunk. It was taken from the side of a much larger piece, so I guess the center was further within the original large nodule. This looks pretty good. As far as stone quality goes. But it likes smooth tools, so that's going to take a while. We're just going to add a bunch of time onto this, hopefully not too much time. Yeah, that's the opposite of what I need right now. I'm trying to get it regular so that doesn't happen. Okay. But you know what happens when I try to make perfect platforms. Yep. Or try to make perfect striking areas, you know what happens. One of these days, eventually doing the same thing over and over again, I'll be able to make perfect platforms and not mess them up. Eventually, after doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, that's about as regular as I can get it. Yes, maybe. Just a little bit more. So yeah, I was thinking about this morning and how to change the strategy. So, you know, flint knapping is a little bit of strategy, a little bit of muscle memory, a little bit of overall picture. All these things combined. This is how I approach Cody points also, just FYI. To get the regular flaking on the Cody points, I have to make a perfect biface first. Okay, as perfect as I can get it. Yeah, it's just a little bit more. I could do a little bit more. Hold on. No, I don't know. Yeah, just a little bit. A little defect right there in the stone. There's a little defect right there. It stopped my flake. Doo-dee-doo-dee-doo. We'll get there eventually. I gotta do my damage control. Lopsided. I can't have it being lopsided whatsoever. It's a little bit lopsided by having too much mass right there. So I can't have that. Now the real ones, they're not perfect, but I don't want to take that for granted. I don't want to say that just because it's not perfect I can take a shortcut. Yeah, that's good enough. If I try to thin it down anymore, I'm going to risk thinning it down too much. Yeah, that's good enough. And I am going to put this in a piece of wood and try to use it later. Okay, as part of this video series. Alright. Let's get some of this out of the way. Move on to stage 2. Okay. All right, stage 2. Let's see how it compares so far. Yeah, it's not going to be as long. And the advantage, I suppose, of having it long is so you can keep resharpening it, and it will last a long time. Otherwise, I don't see an advantage because they will break. There's a big chance of it breaking. You can chop little things with this, or sculpt or whatever. This one's going to be a little wider, and I'm going to do something different. It's not going to have a narrow tip on it. It's going to be wider. Alright, so the next stage is to pretty much just bevel it until I get to the right shape and end up with a square edge. So this is all indirect percussion from here on in. Little flakes. Now this can be used as is. If you just grind it, it can be hafted and then I suppose ground down as a celt, right? Maybe, but we're gonna go further with it. Now see, it was difficult to maintain that thickness, believe it or not, because I'm so used to not having that thickness. I took my glove off because since this is just going to be short flakes, I don't have any risk of running a flake into my fingers. Now this angle, this taper, I mean, is very important. It's got to be the right taper so when you drive it into the wood, it doesn't expand too fast, but it can't be so shallow tapered that it will slide all the way back into the wood and end up with the back end sticking out too far. As you pound it in, as you're using it, it'll pound itself into that socket and it'll keep going backward if it's not tapered enough. I don't know what that angle is or where that taper is. I probably had to look at some photos and actually measure the photos and do some scaling and reproducing some drawings from the photos to get the right taper. Or I can just wing it like I'm going to do today. I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to taper it on opposite sides, or not taper, bevel it. Bevel it on opposite sides in the same way. What I mean by that is I'm going to hit downward this way, flip it over, hit downward that way. That way this angle is going to match this angle down here. It may be oriented in the socket slightly tilted because it might not be totally flat when I'm done. You know how this area is flat, pretty flat here, but this one is not. See that? So I might end up with this type of slant on both sides on this one. Unless I can figure out how to avoid that. Figure out how to avoid that. So this is like pressure flaking. It's pretty dull, pretty boring. Gotta talk about stuff. I can't get too distracted though, because one little mishap could mess it up. I'm going slow now. I could probably go faster once I get better at this. And I'll probably take a few flakes in the other direction just to even it up as I go along. I'm abrading it just to avoid the little crushy step fractures. I'm just hitting on the surface and hitting downward. There's no platform prep. That was too much of a flake removal. I got to be careful. I can't remove big flakes. That's the thing I can't do right now. They got to be tiny flakes. I might have to switch over to pressure pretty soon. And the critical part is just right here in the middle. I don't have to worry too much about this down at the end, I don't think. So if it doesn't get flat down here at the end, I don't have to worry too much. I just need to get it flat here in the middle. Now, if I was really good, I could probably be doing some of this with hammerstone. But I think since these are Neolithic, these are Neolithic axes, they may have had copper to do the final stages, like this final stage right here. Okay. Yeah, I don't have to do this backside other than just evening it up. Yeah. All right, so it's starting to come along. Let's switch over to a smaller diameter. This is where it was important to get this all nice and smooth. So that I don't have to worry about inconsistencies in the surface messing up my beveling. And I'm hitting this way. Instead of going straight down, I'm hitting this way. So it's not straight down. I'm on the surface of the stone, but I'm hitting this way, like at a 45-degree angle. And it's glancing blows. So sometimes it doesn't remove a flake. It's got to bite into it just barely enough to take a flake. It's got to grip just barely enough. Copper might be better for this because it grips better. I'm finding the steel is maybe a little slippery. To be honest, if this was flatter, I could probably do it easier. But since it's rounded, see how it's rounded? It's making it a little more difficult to get these flakes to come off. Now on the real ones, I couldn't tell if they did this. They did some kind of stitching, right? At least on one side. I couldn't tell if they did the stitching on all 4 edges. I'm only going to do that stitching look on 2 of the edges. I'm going to try to get as flat as possible. Although it'll probably have to be canted slightly within the notch. Or I could just somehow pressure flake it during the final stages and get it flattened out. We'll see. I'm doing these back to back so that you can tell that or you can see the learning process. I have not had time to practice this since last night, obviously. Well, this morning I had to run errands. I could have done a lot of flint knapping and got up early and did a lot of flint knapping to practice, but I have to do errands in the morning. I got to drive one of my sons to work, one of my sons to school, and then I gotta drive the one that's going to school back home because he doesn't go to class all day. He gets out about noon, and then my other son gets out of work about 3. Yep, they don't drive yet, and it's okay. It's all right. They don't have cars yet. All right. They're not going to drive mine because I can't afford anything to happen to it. I can just see it. All right, let's see. Yeah, I can tell that's not going to be pleasant. So let's just stick with the indirect percussion. Alrighty, alrighty. I'm running into a tough spot right there. It doesn't matter too much as far as the overall design, but I still would rather have a nice flat surface. Of course, I could grind it the rest of the way flat. Yeah. Because this is good enough, right? To start grinding it. Yeah, the flatter this surface is, the easier it is to get a flat surface here. Yeah. Because this one's working out pretty good on this side. Because that's pretty flat. This one is not so much. I suppose I could take some flakes off. Let's try that. Let's try flattening it. Even though I didn't want to mess with the surface. It might be advantageous. We'll see. They gotta go across, but not too far, because I don't want it rolling over. I can already see there's going to be an issue because of that tough spot. Let's just focus on this area. Not like that. I could take a flake there, but it's dicey. Come on. Any little imperfection is going to mess this up as far as my flaking attempts. No, it's not going to want to do it. I'm trying to sneak up on that, but it's not sneaking upable. It's not sneakable. All right, that might have worked. Took too much off though. Yeah. I don't want to mess with it. Nope, don't want to mess with it. Let's stop messing with it and get it done. Get it finished out. That side's working out pretty good. As long as I don't get too many stiff fractures. Come on. The edge is better now. It's flatter. Should be able to knock off some flakes. There you go. Much better. The face is flatter, so I should be able to knock off flakes easier. Come on. These are just little flakes. All right, now I got to start looking at the symmetry. Something's off. Come on. Yeah, if I start getting these step fractures, see what happens. That happens with beveling too. But it's looking pretty flat. Probably as flat as I can get it with my present skill level. So in the next one I gotta remember to flatten this face on both sides better. So yeah, if I just tap the edges like this and then grind them a little bit. It should be good enough. Yeah. We'll see. I can probably flatten that a little bit. But I've already got a mistake right here. Let's see. Yeah, it's a mistake because it's not supposed to have any hump right there. It's supposed to be flat. that's going to interfere with the placement within the wood. I'm going to have to grind that. Yep. That shouldn't take too long to grind that. Or even to grind it flat, I could do that too. Anyway, let's see. I wasn't paying too close of attention on the step fracturing there. If I was paying more attention, it probably wouldn't have been so bad. But anyway, I don't know how effective it is to have these delicate corners. These will break off unless I'm just chopping on softwood like pine or whatever. I know that these tips are gonna break off if I'm chopping on hardwood like hickory. These ends will break off for sure. And I can't hit wood with it like this because any little imperfection in the blade, any little protrusion is like a platform and the wood will take off a flake. When you hit against wood, it'll attach a lot of force to the very tips of those and it'll just come right off. I don't know if that made sense. All right. So it's shaped pretty much for grinding. Although some of this is a little bit gouged out, like right there. Some of it's too lumpy, like right there. Let's see if I can get rid of that lump. Now you might think the hollow ground effect would be okay, but for stone it's not okay. It's got to be convex when you're cutting into wood. Now, if this was used for butchering, which I doubt, then yeah, you could have the hollow ground edge, you know, and slice open something with it. But for wood, this has got to be convex. Yeah, the more perfect you can knap it, the better, obviously. But a lot of that can be removed with grinding. Although I'm probably going to use this without much grinding. I'll just grind the very edge. Without grinding too much on the surface. It's going to take a while, yeah. I can do the minute flaking on it, and that'll speed up the process. If I just take minute flakes and then grind it, yeah. Since this is high quality raw stuff, it is durable, but the high quality makes it very chippable. So the wood will chip it. If it's a hardwood, like I said. But if it's like pine, cedar, willow, it's not going to damage it very much. I can see where some of those step fractures are going to be a problem. There's a step fracture right there on the edge, and that one. I suppose I could go back and try to remove those, but then I risk scooping out the edge, and they're going to take it back more. Yeah, it's very easy to lose a lot of the edge. So yeah, it would probably be best to finish these out back in the Neolithic. Finish these out with copper tools. That way you can do the nice pressure flaking and all that. And the punch work. I don't know if they use the same kind of vertical punch that I use. Probably not. But they use probably some sort of punches made of copper. Of course you can use antler, but if you really want to make axes and stuff out of the hardest stone, the most durable, you should use copper if they had it available. And the copper it would take to make one of these out of copper would last a long time if you use that copper to make stone axe heads. So what is the measurement? Maybe so we can compare online to some of the other stuff. This is like 11. What is that? 110 millimeter, 4 1/4. Yeah. 110 millimeter or 4 1/4. It's about 18 millimeter thick. Or, you know, let's see, maybe 3/4. So that's it. I'm gonna go do some other stuff and then come back. I'll do some more napping for tonight. It's a busy day. Alrighty.